Hello, everybody. Sitting here at home on Friday evening, listening to the rain falling outside. It's pouring out there right now. It's been like that for the last couple of days. Just really weird weather. Beautiful blue skies and sunshine one minute, pouring rain the next. It's all that lake effect stuff coming off of Lake Erie that's just driving us all crazy right now. Fortunately, it is rain now. It'll be snow in about a month or so. But also all the craziness that's going on in the world, especially in our country, in our nation's capital, with the coronavirus outbreak in the White House, and now it's also crept into the uh, Congress, and it's just a mess. So we all need to keep all of our elected officials, especially the president, in our prayers as we go through a rather difficult time as a country there. Well, I've been sitting here looking at our gospel text for this Sunday from Matthew 21. It's a kind of a strange deal. There are three parables that occur in all three of the synoptic gospels. Those are Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John kind of does his own thing, so he's not included in that group. But those three are the parable of the sower, the parable of the mustard seed, and the parable of the tenants. It should probably be called the parable of the wicked tenants, or the really, really bad tenants. The bad, bad tenants is what it is in the Greek. Bad, bad. Can you imagine that? Okay, so what's that? What's that all about? Well, Jesus took a parable that the prophet Isaiah had actually sung to his people, and he kind of reworked it. See, in Isaiah, the parable was the vineyard had been built up and had been worked on by the owner, and he was looking so forward to having some great vines and fruit of the vines coming, and he was disappointed when he got nothing but wild grapes. Wild grapes. So what did he do? He just tore the whole thing down, plowed it under, got rid of it. Well, here we have Jesus reworking the parable, and in this instance, the vineyard produced great grapes. But what happened was the people who were managing the vineyard, the tenants, they had rented it out, they weren't paying up the rent. So the owner, basically sent some of his, um, they were household slaves, but not slaves in the sense of what we're used to thinking of slaves. They were workers that were pretty well esteemed in the household, and they went to collect the rent, and they got beat up and killed. So he sent another group. They got beat up and killed. Oh, so the owner said, "You know what? I'm sending my son. He'll straighten them out." The son goes. He gets beat up, thrown out, and killed. So Jesus asked the question, "What do you think is going to happen to those tenants?" And the people answered, "Well, of course, those bad, bad, bad tenants, they're going to be kicked out, and the owner's going to put in new tenants." Jesus kind of shook his head and said, "Yeah, you're just about there. Just one more thing I need to add. The stone that the builders rejected is the chief cornerstone." Yeah, you read about that in Psalm 118. Well, that stone is here. Guess who that stone is? He didn't say it right out loud, but Jesus is that cornerstone. So here we have the parable of the wicked tenants, and really that's a misnomer. It should not be called a parable. It should be called an allegory, because that's truly what it is, different from the other parables that Jesus spoke. It's an allegory because in an allegory you can say, okay, the vineyard is Israel. Um, the tenants working it are the chief priests and the Pharisees, and the owner is God. The Son who was sent is Jesus. We have all those one-on-one relationships going on there. But when you come right down to it, it's not a parable about wicked tenants who didn't do their job and now they're going to lose their job. In fact, Jesus does say they're going to get kicked out. They're going to get kicked out. No wonder they were mad at Jesus. No wonder it says at the very end of our passage that they wanted to kill him. They're just getting tired of getting beat up by Jesus. But Jesus is telling it like it is. If you have a job to do, if God gives you a job to do, get it done. You got to be fruitful people. Just like that vineyard's got to be fruitful or it's going to get torn up. Got to be fruitful people. And if you don't do the job that God asks you to do, it's lights out. It's lights out. So, but in the end, it's not a parable about the evil tenants. It's a parable about Jesus, the chief cornerstone. And that Psalm 118, that verse from Psalm 118 is quoted more in the New Testament than any other verse from the Older Testament. Isn't that something? As I sit and think about that, the one thing I think we need to ask ourselves is, have we made Jesus the chief cornerstone of our lives? Have we made his teachings? Have we made his love, his forgiveness, his justice, his mercy that he talks about and that he shows to his people? Are we making those things the cornerstones of our lives? Because if we haven't, we're missing the point, even as those tenants in that parable, that allegory, missed the point. A very thoughtful parable / allegory, a very difficult one to hear, but one that we as God's people living in the year 2020 and beyond need to take seriously. Well, I seriously need to find a place to lay down my head and go to sleep. And that would be on my bed, if I can kick all the cats off of it first. God's blessings be with you, and hopefully the sun will start shining this weekend. God's blessings be with you.